New Brighton Station is one of 4 terminal stations on Merseyrail's Wirral line. The Wirral Railway opened the branch on the 30th of March 1888 to serve the growing seaside town on the Wirral Peninsula. Its rails weren't the only ones to bring crowds to the seaside, nor was it the only railway in the town. More on this later. The site of the station was something of a compromise. Situated at the junction of Victoria Road and Atherton Street, it had originally been intended to be further into the town and closer to the attractions. The original terminus was to be sited at Rowson Street, but as this would have needed either an embankment or a steep gradient, the terminal at Atherton Street was chosen instead. This compromise meant it was some distance and a long uphill walk from the beach. To try to attract passengers, a large sign saying Railway Station was erected on the station as seen here. Later, an additional station sign was added jutting out onto Atherton Street and Victoria Road, in an attempt to entice passengers up to the station. These architect plans show the general layout of the station. The station building once had a clock tower, which is now sadly gone. The pleasant Wirral Railway architecture makes it a very welcoming station. The large booking hall would have been an agreeable place to wait in inclement weather, especially before the Art Deco canopy was added in the 1930s. The sidings at the station are for stabling trains between duties. These views show the station in its early years. Being close to Liverpool, the station would have attracted passengers to its beaches and attractions. One of which was the tower. Similar but taller than Blackpool Tower, it was to be relatively short-lived, lasting only from 1898 to 1919. The First World War causing maintenance to be halted, the owners opted for dismantling due to lack of funds. This coloured postcard view showing the grand interior ballroom. The tower grounds also contain gardens, an athletic ground, and a must for a seaside town, a fun fair. It was in this fun fair that the second railway at New Brighton could be found. This was Tommy Mann's miniature railway, opened in 1947. However, it was in a corner of the tower grounds that a railway extension was briefly proposed. The continued problem with the station at Atherton Street being so far from the centre could have been solved by these plans. This 1922 proposal was for a tunnel branching off through the rock cutting and through to the tower grounds. No plans have come to light of these proposals, though this map gives an idea of the planned route. Had this extension taken place, the new station would have placed it in direct competition with 2 other rivals for passengers, the tracks of the Wallasey tramways and the ferries. Opened in 1902, the electric tram service headed right past the station and down Victoria Road to terminate opposite the ferry. Seen in the background of these photos is the trams, passing alongside the station, whilst more are seen at the ferry terminal. The competition with the trams would have been short-lived, the tramways all being converted to buses by 1933. But the buses also offered unwelcome competition. The competition from the ferry also impacted the railway, bringing passengers direct to the heart of New Brighton, but with the added advantage of a sail down the river from Liverpool Pier Head along the way. It was possible to do both the ferry and the train, as this combined ticket shows. The ferry service to New Brighton lasted until 1971. Incorporating the ferry's terminal was also New Brighton Pier itself, another popular destination. Sadly, as with many seaside piers, it suffered decline and eventual demolition. Today, only the base of the stanchions can be seen in the rocks. If we examine some early maps, we see one short siding branching off from New Brighton Station. This was the sand siding, opened in 1913 to extract sand for rail works and for sale. Extra sidings were later added as tip sidings for dumping of waste from the docks. These sidings were to prove very useful during the building of the promenade between 1935 and 1939, though this wasn't without issues. Some people not being very happy with the virtual loss of the Red Nose's sandstone outcrops and sandy shores and dunes. Controlling all these sidings, as well as the passenger trains and freight from the goods yard, was New Brighton's signal box, sited just by Portland Street Bridge. This box having a railway signal company frame. In 1989, arsonists set fire to the box, causing considerable damage. The box, once repaired, returned to operation. It was finally closed in 1994. Its operations now controlled by the Merseyrail Control Centre at Sand Hills. The small goods yard is seen here. This goods yard has now been replaced by housing. New Brighton's fortunes began to decline with the emergence of cheap foreign holidays, with fewer visitors each year. The loss of the tower and the fairground to fire in 1969. The closure of the ferry and pier also dealt serious blows. The destruction of the Art Deco pool was another blow. Even the sand was to disappear. But a revival was to come. The New Brighton branch was to see a variety of trains operating on the branch. Its early years was dominated by steam locos on both passenger and freight, some of which we see here. The Merseyrail's underground line to Liverpool was electrified in 1903, and passengers for New Brighton had to change at Birkenhead Park. The Wirral Railway had been absorbed by the LMS in 1923, and plans to extend the electric services were planned and completed by 1938. This new service was to see the American-style Merseyrail trains reach New Brighton, their trains serving the branch Monday to Saturday. On Sundays, the sliding door LMS train served the line. This was to keep both companies' drivers familiar with the route. The LMS stock is seen here brand new and later alongside the Merseyrail stock at New Brighton. 1956 saw the Mersey trains replaced with more units of the 1938 design. Classed by British Rail as Class 503s, these units were to serve the branch until their replacement in 1985. In the early 1970s, the look of these trains was altered by the addition of end doors. This is to allow passengers to exit the train in an emergency in the single-track loop tunnels then under construction. The final run of these trains was an enthusiast special that ran over the whole of the Merseyrail network. The last leg of the tour departed from New Brighton to Rock Ferry via the Liverpool Loop. The signalman on duty at New Brighton Box placing detonators on the track as a salute to these long-serving trains. The 503s were replaced by the 508s. Always originally intended for Merseyrail, they were temporarily diverted to the southern region before they finally came to their rightful home. When the Seacombe branch was closed, its services to Wrexham were diverted to run to New Brighton. At the time, it was near the end of steam, so the service was mostly operated by diesel units. But this was substituted by steam on occasion. The Wrexham services were later cut back to Birkenhead North, and later still, Bidston. Buses to New Brighton continued to offer competition with the trains, their main terminal being alongside the indoor fun fair, alongside Virginia Road. One bus to visit here often on services was a Pioneer. This bus was Wallasey No. 1. Today all buses have a front entrance and a rear engine. Wallasey No. 1 was the first to be like this. The buses are labelled Atlantean and was the very first into municipal service in England, and was followed by further batches of the same design. Wallasey No. 1 has now been preserved and gives regular rides at the Wirral Bus and Tram Show, held on the first Sunday in October. In recent years, New Brighton's fortunes have turned round. Sea defences have brought the sand back, and a new retail and leisure development has brought the visitors back. The town's murals have also brightened up the landscape. Watching the ships on the Mersey coming and going is still enjoyed by many, though there are fewer now than in its heyday. Meanwhile, New Brighton Station still sees regular visitors and commuters. We'll soon see the introduction of new trains. It's a popular place to visit, and well recommended.